Here are my top 5 games and gaming experiences I had in July. Number 5 is Chicago 1875 City of the Big Shoulders. This game was on my radar to play for a long time, especially being available on Board Game Arena. My friends had played the game on this table last month, but I couldn't be there, so we decided to run through another game online to include me. This was an interesting experience for me. In this game, you are entrepreneurs rebuilding the wealth of Chicago after the Great Fires, and it mixes together the stock manipulation seen in 18xx games and with worker placement that is seen in Euro games. So half this game made sense to me. The stock part of the game was intriguing in the way that it introduces shared incentives and interaction. This element introduces opportunities that could either hurt a leading player, for example, by everyone else working together and investing in different companies that are different than theirs, or perhaps create a more even playing field where everyone has their hands in each other's companies and people are progressing and investing more, evenly. I don't know what typically happens in these types of games meta wise. I don't know what kind of strategy, if any of those two scenarios tend to occur in this game or perhaps other 18xx games. I'm kind of new to this mechanism and to 18xx in general. So I think that's why it's number 5 for me. I think I need to experience this game and mechanism of stock manipulation further to fully appreciate it. But I walked away not hating the experience, which is a plus for me. And for all of you who enjoy these types of games and perhaps have recommended them to me in the past. Number 4 was Hansa Teutonica. This classic game was brought to my attention this month since it had a dedicated web app now for free that was released recently. I've always wanted to try this game out, as it's marketed as the perfect standard medium weight Euro game. You place cubes on a static board, which represent traders, and hope to gain victory points by being the last person to finish a route and place the last cube or token on a city. There are areas of the board where, if you do fill it up, allow you to upgrade your play, such as being able to take more actions or unlock different areas of the board to acquire more points, etc. It's a very chess-like game that's very static. Everything is the same from game to game on the board. It's just essentially how where you start and how you interact with each other. There is an element where you can displace each other, and so that kind of creates a very interactive experience that is very much in your face and can lead to different opportunities that allow for an evolving and deeper strategic experience the more you play it. And I think I'll continue to try and play it to see if it does intrigue my interest over time, to see if this chess-like puzzle is impressive to me. There's no doubt that it is impressive in and of itself. Objectively, it's a very highly rated game. People really enjoy it. But I do want to see if it is kind of a game for me, since while I do appreciate games that offer a more lifestyle experience by getting better at it through repetitive play, you have to be choosy about which types of games of those you want to dedicate your time with, since there are so many good games out there. So we'll see if Hansa Teutonica does break through and become a critical darling of mine, or if it is just a respectable experience that I have enjoyed but have moved on from. So we'll see. Number 3 is Fea's Swamp. So I finally got to play this recreation of Kai-Vai that released last year. You utilize worker placement to send boats around a shared board, collecting fish to sell to each other's markets, and that gives you gold, which allows you to build out these islands further, which ultimately ends in victory points at the end of the game for you. The thing I liked most about this game was the modular objectives you can try to fulfill each game, as well as bonus cards you can acquire at the beginning of each round in a similar fashion to Terra Mystica bonus tiles, which this game was likely the inspiration for, and these bonus tiles are also modular to add a little bit of variety to the game from game to game. These objectives, I think, will keep the game feeling fresh for multiple plays once you figure out the best way to kind of approach, in general, the main board, where to start. There are a lot of things that are interchangeable about this game. For example, the types of fish that are worth your time from round to round, those change. And so, interacting with different parts of the board will change from game to game because of that. But also, if you think about everything that you do converting into points, this game does feel like a sort of point salad where other avenues of points, like collecting torches as you travel around the board, and there are multiple objectives that you can try to fulfill as well, different like having the majority of a certain thing at the end of the game versus how you build out your islands. Those all can change from game to game, and they roughly equate to the a similar amount of points with those who find the smallest bits of efficiencies that are better than the other players will end up with the victory, but by perhaps just a smaller margin than usual. And so, if that experience is something that you enjoy, where everyone is kind of doing different things, but kind of gaining points at a similar rate without a lot of interaction, and there is interaction in this game with the worker placement, it's very tight. I learned that the resource of mana was very important in this game to be able to utilize those worker placement spots later in the round that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise, especially in a higher player count. But yeah, if you do enjoy games that kind of, where everyone's kind of doing their own thing, but ultimately can end up in a very similar fashion points wise if everyone kind of chases different objectives, with perhaps the person who found the most efficient way to solve a particular puzzle and to obtain a certain objective would win, then that is great. I've kind of been steering more towards an experience where there's one or a limited amount of shared objectives and everyone's trying to elbow their way into being the best at doing that. Those experiences have been challenging but fun for me recently, and so I think that's why Faya Swamp kind of lands somewhere in the middle for me. But I think this would be a fun game. I enjoyed my play of it. I think it's a good rendition of the system and would enjoy revisiting this game sometime. My number 2 is Wondrous Creatures, specifically the Winter Fall expansion. I got to play this new expansion with my friend Alex. This new addition to the game adds a few new elements, namely, literally, the element of cold weather, where you can place certain tiles like blizzards or auroras on top of pre existing tiles, blocking what you can typically do, or adding bonuses to certain places, like with those aurora tiles. There are also a new token type in the form of snowflakes that are added to the card market to add incentives, very similar to how in some games the cards that you don't draw, you add a coin to incentivize drawing of it. In this game, there's no like incentivation to place those snowflakes on certain cards. You can place them wherever you want, but it does add another way to gain some points by the end of the game if you have the most snowflakes at the end. This expansion adds a new creature type in the form of spirits, and these new characters, there are new main characters that you can add and play as that add new ways to interact with some of these additions to the game. But I think the most important update to this game is that these new creatures that you add to the deck, usually from the new creature type, include powers that allow you to search through the deck for specific cards, not unlike the seeds element in Earth's expansion, the abundance expansion, which allows you to search the deck, as well as the marine animal type in the marine expansion to Ark Nova, which allows you to cycle through the market faster. It makes me think that perhaps these new games, or as new games start to release that offer a large deck of individualized cards, I wonder if it won't be or it will be seen that this mechanism of being able to search through the deck will be seen more and more often as long as these types of games occur, and we won't have to wait until an expansion to have that element. I think people have been quite positive with that type of experience and having that be added to these games that have a lot of different cards. And so, but regardless, I quite enjoyed this expansion for Wondrous Creatures, and I really continue to like it. Since its release recently on Board Game Arena, I've played the base game, and with the additional plays that I've had of it, including the expansion, I've really enjoyed this game, and it's quite a cozy experience for me and it has a lot of the elements and mechanisms that I really do enjoy in some of my favorite games that I've mentioned before. And so, yeah, this is a fun experience and a welcome addition to this fun game. But my number one experience and game from July is Eternal Decks. This was my favorite experience this month, and it's a very interesting and weird game to try to describe. So I couldn't really tell you, despite me hearing people try to describe it beforehand. It might be one of those games that makes sense as you play it, but regardless, theme aside, you are cooperatively playing cards into the main board in a shedding type fashion, and the board and the puzzle that you're shedding cards into changes based off of different scenarios and how you set up the game. The main thing that happens in this game, though, that I really like is you have a bunch of different decks of cards that you can add to your own personal deck, because you lose if you have to draw from your deck, but you can't. You run out of cards to play, essentially. And so the main puzzle, or the main driver of this game, is to fill out rows onto the main board. Therefore, if you do play the last card, you unlock the deck of your choosing to add to your personal deck to draw from, which these decks offer a unique variety of colors and numbers, but also with hindrances that you can try to abolish by playing cards elsewhere on the game board. But yeah, so the goal of the game also may be different the more you play it, the different scenarios that you're trying to solve for. For example, the first scenario, you're trying to collect 4 stars. In the second one, which is Ghost Town, I believe, you're trying to unlock all 4 decks of cards in a certain row. And so different triggers to the end of the game. But the more you play it, the more scenarios you try to interact with, the challenge becomes more challenging, but also more interesting as well. I've only played it twice, but every experience has been really fun for me. I also like the limited communication in this game. So very similar to a game like The Crew, where you place tokens on like cards or certain spaces to say, hey, this is what I can play. In this game, it's a little bit more fluid and flexible, I feel, where you can move your token at any time to a certain spot on the board to say, hey, I feel like I have something in my hand that I can play here. And you can move that around as freely as possible, whether it's your turn or not. At least that's the way that I played it. And you have 2 of these tokens, so you can kind of play them, at 2 different places, or you can play them both on the same spot to really communicate that you want to go there or need to go there. And so the fluidity of being able to move these around really makes the limited communication, it doesn't feel tight or as punishing as it could be for such a challenging experience, but it's limited enough that it does create that puzzle that you're trying to solve as best as possible with this limitation. I think it's an appropriate limitation in this game. Sure, you can tell people exactly what you have, but despite the challenge of each scenario, I think that would make it a little too easy. And so this limitation does add a little bit of challenge to the experience, which I enjoy. And so, yeah, this game, if I want to play a game like, Faya Swamp earlier, I don't know when I would play that next. Eternal Decks, I do have new friends that I would be able to play this with and have a really good chance at experiencing all of the additional scenarios and difficulties for each scenario that this game offers. And so I really do think that I will be able to play this game more and maybe finish the quote unquote story that is offered in this game. And so I think that's another reason why it's number one, is because I do feel like I can play this more. And I've really enjoyed my plays of it thus far, but I think I will continue to just be very satisfied with the different scenarios that are coming from this game in the future for me. And so I think this game does deserve its hype that it got earlier this year, and hope it continues to do well locally as it's being talked about more and published more locally here in the States, and hopefully abroad as well. Eternal Decks definitely deserves the praise it's getting. So those are my top 5 games that I played this last month in July. Let me know if you enjoyed or dislike any of these games and what you've played recently that it could be new. It could be an older game that is, introduced to you for the first time, or a return to an old game that you've really enjoyed before. Let me know what your experiences were like in July. I do enjoy commenting and conversing with you. With that, thank you very much, and hope you have a great day. Thank you.